So my name is Renata, and I'm the marketing and communications coordinator for the Universal Tech Movement. Make sure y'all go check out our website, joinutm.org. I also do a little website design on the side. Website is done by yours truly. Hit me up. And so I'll go ahead and bring up our panelists for this evening. So we already heard from Miss Cydney, but Miss Cydney Washington-Moore is the Senior Technology Solutions Manager at South by Southwest, and she is a powerhouse leader at the intersection of tech, culture, and community. Give her a round of applause for Miss Cydney while she comes up. Hey. Now, next up, joining us this evening is Mr. Steve Bolger, who is over the fashion admin, Envision Photography, ATX Creators Meetup. He wears many hats, does many things, and has lifestyle content with over 44,000 followers, doing work throughout Austin, spotlighting us and many other beautiful people. So give him a round of applause as he comes on up. And last but never ever least is Miss Maigan Pearson. She is a beautiful content creator and digital storyteller right here in Austin with over 10,000 followers and a thriving creative platform blending authenticity, culture, and strategy. Give her a round of applause, Miss Maigan. We love to see it. We love to see it. So we're going to jump right into these questions. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for the audience to ask questions as well. But with the first one, what I have is, what was that I can't keep this talent to myself moment that made you go all in on your creative career? Whoever wants to go first.
Right, hello? Okay. Hello, y'all. My name is Maigan. Like she said, that moment had to have been me when I realized that content creation, photography was something that I just couldn't keep to myself. Like, I want to help people grow their business or grow their social media. I'm a photographer, but I quit my job 2 years ago and doing full-time content creation. And I was just like, yeah, like if I'm growing my page like this, I can help somebody else grow their page and their business as well. Thank you.
Hey, friends. Um, nice to see you all. I would say for me, it came in two phases. At first, I needed people to tell me that I was doing a good job with putting outfits together, just sharing advice with people in the office. They encouraged me, my coworkers, maybe about 8 or 9 years ago to start an Instagram. But it wasn't until I think in 2023, I had a fun collaboration with a hotel in Philly, back where I'm from, that really opened my eyes to how fun and engaging content creation can be and how fulfilling it can be. I would say that would be it's like a two-parter, two moments for me.
Well, I mean, I kind of have like a roundabout way of being creative. So I mean, I'm more of a creative problem solver than a creative professional. But I think for me, it was just realizing that I had an applicable talent, if that makes sense. I was actually doing like medical mission work in a rice field in Cambodia, and I was helping, and I just kind of noticed how this kind of pattern of behavior that I had for optimizing a workflow. Translators, and then we had folks manning this pharmacy, and then we had folks, the translators were trying to work as a go-between. I was like, well, why don't we train them up? And then they can just kind of run it, and we can just be there to give them any advice, in between. And that just made everything seamless. And it was just hundreds of people going through. I was like, like I could do something with this, and I could help people with this. So I think, the first big step to finding your I can't keep this to myself thing is to see the value in it yourself, because that's what unlocks for you the ability for you to not only utilize it, but to talk to other people about it, to share it with other people, and to grow from there.
Yeah, that was a beautiful answer. That exactly. I love that.
I would say for me, I had, I guess, a bit of an identity crisis in like 2022 with content as we switched from photo to video. On Instagram, there was a lot of shifting in what was getting more traction, getting more engagement, what brands were really focused on. And that was a difficult moment because I didn't sign up to make videos. I just figured I had to take a nice photo. There was a moment where I'd really think about, like, do I really want to keep pursuing this? Can I find things that I enjoy expanding into the video space? And ultimately I did. And I'm really glad that I didn't close that door. Learning something new when you're presented with a challenge can also help you in other ways. I also do photography, not just content. And with the push to video for me to perform in that way, I have peers, I have businesses now who are relying on video. So there's an opportunity sometimes when you're presented with challenges that are outside of your control in the industry. So that was kind of my moment where I was like, I was just ready to throw in the towel.
I completely understand that. I actually share a quick story. So there was a content creator, well-known content creator that I knew posted people you should follow on Instagram. And everyone she posted was everyone I knew, but I wasn't on there. And I was like, well, and then I just had to realize like, okay, Maigan, why would people follow you? What is your page speaking to people? You know, when they go to it, what would they say that they'll follow you for? I could have been like, you know what, forget this content creation. But instead I was like, no, let me take it a step back and figure out what it is that people follow me for. So I asked some of my close friends, like, hey y'all, what do y'all think of my social media page? And they, gave me some insights. I'm like, okay. So then I started posting a little bit more of that. And then I just realized, you know what, my Instagram is all things Maigan, and I'm God's favorite. So like y'all gonna see God, y'all gonna see me, y'all gonna see my family, and that's what it is. So yeah, thank you.
I think when it feels like the odds are stacked against you, I know what keeps me going is remembering my why, like why I'm doing it. And I think it's different for me because I have less of an entrepreneurial bent. Like I'm working within systems and, systems that inherently weren't created for us and weren't created for us to leverage and lift each other up. Like, so there's constant roadblocks. There's just constant no and why should I? And I think what kind of helps me center myself and remember why I want to keep going is why I'm doing it in the first place. And for me, it's all about community, and it's about helping not only my community, all marginalized communities, whatever way I can, just try to bloom where I'm planted. If I lose a job, I'm like, okay, well, I'll find another pot to bloom in. Like I'll find another way to do it because that's my mission and purpose in life. And I think staying connected to that, why you're doing the thing, helps you push through when it's hard.
And that makes perfect sense to me because I feel like it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you're a creative or a technologist or an economist or whatever, there's always going to be moments where the odds are against you, but perhaps it's not even like the odds are against you. Perhaps that's just the friction of life. And sometimes thinking of it that way too makes it feel less like everyone's against me and people don't want me to win. And sometimes it's just like that's just resistance. That's just like Newton's law of I don't know no Newton's law, so don't. But you know what I'm saying? Like perhaps it's just life. So
yeah, I think and pushing through gives other people that opportunity to show up for you, because if you reframe it from what more can I do to get through this roadblock and reframe it, who can help me do more? What can we do? And I think that's how I'm trying to get through the current socio-political moment, is to stop thinking in terms of what more can I do? What more can we do? Because I think there's so much power in us.
I love that. Snaps for that. Snaps for that. So the next question that I have that Steve, you already touched on this a bit when you talked about just having your camera and taking photos. It's how did you use the tech you had, even if it was just a phone and Wi-Fi, to get your vision out there in the beginning?
Yeah, humble beginnings for sure. I started just taking pictures of my outfits in the parking lot at work. I had coworkers who would offer to help me take photos, and even when I felt discouraged, maybe I didn't like the outfit, sometimes they would hype me up. So it was very humble beginnings. Just iPhone, I think I was on a Samsung at one point. I will sadly admit, no shade, but yeah, you have to start somewhere, and a phone can be a really powerful tool. It's if you have the vision, and the perspective on like where you want to go next from that. Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you really shouldn't start with a $5,000 camera. If you're just starting out, if you're just testing out an idea, you want to make sure that idea is going to work for you and you're feeling something when you're doing it before you really go all in and pour some cash into something that you then can't return to the store.
No, I totally agree. I actually started off with my iPhone. So my business is called I Capture Photography, and life is a series of moments that I capture. So that's why I started with my iPhone. It's like the little eye. It's amazing. But in 2020, right before the world shut down, Houston Tillerson, shout out to HT Rams, go Rams, we in the house. They hired me for their homecoming to take photos. And I was like, okay, it's my first oh, I wasn't even, I didn't even quit my job yet. No, no, no. I didn't even start my business yet. But God gave me the name. So I was using eye capture photos and stuff. Um, and next thing you know, I was like, wow, it doesn't, like you said, you don't need a big equipment or a big camera. You can literally use your phone if you have a vision, clean your camera, clean your lens. Don't forget to clean the lens before you take a photo and having the vision as well.
I think the way you approach it, because I'm before I got into tech, I was a self-taught marketer. So everything, I would say in every interview, like everything I learned about marketing or project management, I taught myself how to do. And I think when you're starting out, yeah, you don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You start with what you have. And then as you're integrating new technology, new tools into your workflow, I think just start with, it's one of the few times I think it makes sense to start with the outcome that you want. Well, what's the thing I'm trying to do? Like when I started using Canva, I'm like, okay, well, I need to make XYZ posters at scale, and just kind of starting with the idea in my head, the vision in my head, and then just tinkering. And that was how I learned. I used that idea to upskill and to build my skills in using this platform, using this tool. I'm like, okay, well, it can't do that. Can it make it look like that? Can it make it bigger? Can it make it smaller? Can it make this thing disappear? And I think it infuses that sense of play in learning again, like kind of using those skills you built out as a kid. Like, well, what can it do? Like, can it do this thing I want it to do? And I think having that sense of playfulness in your approach to learning new tech as you're upskilling and integrating new stuff into your workflow it helps take a little bit of the intimidation factor out of it and helps keep it fun.
And it makes me think of, I don't know how many people know of like DC Young Fly from like Wildin' Out and 85 South Show and all this stuff, but y'all might remember him from like Vine. Like he was just a comedian on Vine doing like 7-second clips, and now he just has like a whole entire career that went from him being goofy for 5 seconds to like a whole life and a whole brand. So there's some people out there that it's like I have a big clunky like Canon camera at home right now. Got all the 50 million lenses and all that stuff. It is dusty because I don't use it because I use my phone. So, and now I have a job as well doing marketing communications, and I primarily use my phone. So you can use so many things to change your life. Just like don't hold yourself back. And like they said, like you don't need the top equipment on the planet. You just need to know like what's your focus and keep going for it with what you do have. And just let it build, let the beat build, like go from there. So, okay. So, what's one slept on app or tool every creative should know about right now?
I'm gonna keep it simple and say your phone. For me, like it's a good tool. Like, I think sometimes, like we just talked about, like sometimes we think we need this high gadget, whenever it's coming out. But what an iPhone 13 can do, an iPhone 16, what an iPhone 13 can do. Like, as long as you clean your camera, know your lighting, and you have the vision, I do believe like your phone is the biggest tool that I think some people are sleeping on right now. And if y'all need any help, I got you.
Seems that there was a little conflict of interest in the answer. Just kidding. That's a good one, though. There's a lot of tools that we have that I think we kind of downplay or sleep on, even though we're using them every day. We use our phones for everything. We can't live without them. So great point. I would say for business owners out there, think about workflow management, so I've recently got into HoneyBook to manage invoices and a lot of my shoots and agreements, and it's just a nice way to track where a lot of things are when there's a lot of moving parts as a business owner. We can often be focused on like new apps that are coming out, maybe new social media platforms. Having a very smooth operation is also helpful too. And it also gives you an air of professionalism that your clients can appreciate, especially when a lot of people aren't, everything off of maybe just Word docs. And yeah, so it's a nice way to stay on track and collect that money digitally.
I would say the tool that people are currently sleeping on is humans. Like it's you. I think for all the hashtag discourse there is about AI, and that's a powerful tool. I think we're still in the early stages of figuring out how to use it. And the way I've sat in a lot of sessions, a lot of conference sessions focused on AI. And the people who are in that world, in those spaces, they're not, while they're brilliant minds, they're not thinking, they don't have the tools, the creativity, the ingenuity, or really maybe probably the incentive to think critically about how these tools are being used and how they can actually be properly applied for human flourishing. It's creative people who are going to come up with that. Like I was saying during the icebreaker session, there is, even before the advent of AI, was something that it came up during South by Southwest London. This really brilliant speaker was talking about, even before the advent of AI, there was just this trend of blandness, of sameness, of homogeneity before AI. And right now, the way the tools are being applied, it's only exacerbating that. So the way that you're going to stand out in this market is not to fully give yourself over, your skills, your creativity, your critical thinking over to these machines. It's to figure out how to augment it, figure out how to make it a part of your workflow, not simply shape your workflow around this tool, because that's what it is. It's a tool. It is not a replacement for you and your capacity. So I think, again, kind of back to what your first question, I think now is a really exciting time for us to excavate what talents, what can't keep this to myself talents there are, what makes us unique in these marketplaces, in these spaces that can't be replaced by machines, because they're working really hard to try and figure out how to replace people, but find that thing that is about you, that's irreplaceable. And because that is the tool. I mean, I looked it up because I'm a nerd, but the root word for technology is techne. It's a Greek word meaning craft, art. So that means that this technology, it doesn't exist without people. It isn't meaningful without people. And it can't be properly utilized without humans and all their messiness and all their complexity and all their creativity. It's up to us, and it's up to people who think in that mindset, you know?
2 follow-ups to that. First of all, Miss Cydney, do you have a podcast? So you should start one. Such a way with words. 2, I think this is a good place to plug community too, because that's something that, with the human aspect, that I think people often sleep on, is wanting to do things themselves, or maybe relying on AI too much. There's a lot that you can gain from using AI as an assistant, as a partner. You know, all of us here, we came here for a reason today, right? Not just to talk and debate whether or not AI is good or bad. You know, a lot of strong opinions in that here, but also just the connection that we all form by coming out here together, having conversations, from icebreakers, chooses the time to mingle. Social media is supposed to be a social thing. That's one, at least for now. Like, robots can't give us hugs. They can't tell you that, hey, your work matters.
They're trying to figure out how to do that.
They are. It's just not the same. It just rings hollow. But yeah, I would just want to plug community. So trust in the people around you, and when things are tough, like, reach out to keep going.
Man, because I was going to be like, oh, the tool you should use. But after you said that, I was like, you know, it doesn't matter.
Took it to a new level.
Exactly. Because I had recently seen this clip too. They were talking about Elon Musk was coming out with some new AI called Annie or something like that. But it's like some girl that's like going to be talking to you, and the way she talks to you is very like, you know, trying to get in here. I was just like, it's getting really creepy. But it also makes me think that I do think AI is important as a tool, but once they've let tech replace humans for everything, there's still going to be humans left. So what are we finna do? Like,
And the thing is, they build a lot of these things before they know what to do with them. Like YouTube. YouTube was not originally intended to be this like place for long form videos and stuff like that. Like, people changed that platform and the way that it works. Instagram, think of it, I mean, the way LinkedIn works now because of the popularity of TikTok, the way Instagram works now. It's you guys, it's content creators, it's creative people who are actually teaching these technically minded people, again, very smart people, but they're not the ones who are going to figure out what these things can do and what gives them meaning. It's people who are going to do that.
I saw this clip the other day. Neil deGrasse Tyson had said, talking about science and art, and he was like, yeah, it takes, you know, some guy to do all this research, and that the saying is, oh, he's gotten it down to a science. And he's like, but it's when you add that human touch and creativity to it that it goes from down to a science to being brought up to an art. Because he was like, science can be replicated because anything out there in the universe, once you discover it, someone else can also discover it, someone else can also discover it. But when you add that creativity and bring it into an art form, that can never be replicated. Like, even if AI wants to copy and paste some artist's work right now, it just will never be the same. So I think everyone's creativity is so important. So humans are the actual tools. We're the blueprint. And that's on period. Okay. So the next question, man, this conversation's good. With new tech dropping every week, how do you keep up without feeling like you're in a never-ending hustle?
I think it's about, again, that critical thinking. You don't need to do everything. It's having that mindset of what is your core value proposition as a business owner? What makes sense for you? Don't be navel gazing about it. Where's your audience? So if your bag is about creating content around how to make it in the workplace, how to be a corporate baddie, then, utilizing the tools that are emerging and finding a way to leverage the technology of LinkedIn makes sense. If you're a foodie or, if you're creating foodie content, then, DoorDash has some exciting, things. And I think thinking from a user perspective, I know that in my work that's made me a lot better is just, again, thinking expansively of like, and thinking outside the box. Like for when we're working on the Go app, it's like, well, who are we trying to reach? Like what is the core purpose of this thing that we're trying to innovate or iterate on? And then great ideas can come from anywhere. It's about thinking about where your audience, what they need from you, and beyond entertainment. How are you bringing value and meaning to your relationship with them and building that community, building that relationship, leveraging your community around you to come up with the next great idea and to find out how to use these tools before the people who even built it figure it out. Because again, it comes from the ground up, not from the top down.
And it's hard to top that. So I was liking when you were last. It's like I get some good points in before you finish us. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think it comes down to intentionality and focusing on your why. So you don't get lost. Like we're in such a constant news cycle, and now like technology moves as fast, almost as fast as the news. So just keeping that focus, really knowing what's for you, what's for the people that you want to reach. Yeah, that'll help you survive. Just like the onslaught, just gets faster and faster.
Yeah. Amazing. I will also add too, there's always new things happening and dropping. So it's like, okay, I don't need everything. And of course, having like that FOMO sometimes, like, oh, I want to buy this because they have it. Like, well, what is it going to benefit you? How is it going to benefit your audience? Like you said. So knowing that, like, okay, I don't need this right now, but later, or just, researching it and or asking questions like, how is this gadget, or how was the DJI? Is it worth the buy? So like really just knowing when to buy things and when to not.
Okay. Let me see. What's a good question we have next? What's a lie about making it as a creative you had to unlearn the hard way?
Steve's drinking some water. I would say when I quit my job, I just knew. Okay, I quit. I'm online. I'm about to get PR packages. I'm about to get brand deals. No, ma'am. That's not how it works. And it was just, because you see that online. So you see everyone's getting this. And I'm like, okay, well, what I got to do? And it's just like, you have to show up. You have to post. You have to figure out the things that your audience likes. And I just really had to, like, it took some time. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm still not there. And so I also think like, reaching the 10K, like as soon as you hit 10,000 followers, okay, I'm about to, no, it's still not the same. And so really just knowing everyone's social media is different. And then, yeah, I'm gonna just keep it to that.
Well, really quick, a question, because I know now you're a full-time content creator, right? But what was that, I guess, point financially or whatever in your life where you were like, okay, I mean, it doesn't matter. I have 10K followers or whatever. I do know that now is a good time to go ahead and take that leap as a creative.
Yes, absolutely. So in 2022, 2022, I hired a content coach to help me with my photography business. I'm like, I want to put my photography more on there. I wasn't really creating content at the time. And so we were doing good. We were hitting our goals. And a thought came and was like, what if I did this full time? But it literally like came and left. So then at the beginning of 2023, I had some things going on with my previous boss and just some stuff that I couldn't do because of like things that I value. So my church had something going on the weekend. I had to work on a Saturday. My program, I was a high school program coordinator, by the way. So my program, my students, they were showing up all the time, you know? And so I'm like, I don't understand. So it was that thought. And then it was another thing that happened. But in January, God told me, you're going to quit your job. You're going to save this much money up. You're going to quit June 1st. Most people in the job, they'll work the whole entire summer and then they'll be done in August. But I'm not like most. So I had to chuck up the deuce to June 1st. And thank God for my amazing husband, Jimmy Blazer over there. He was more excited than me when I was getting ready to quit, you know, but I just thank God for the providing for our family and for our home and making ways out of no ways. And opportunities didn't come immediately, but they started to open the door the more that I trust God. And like, okay, Lord, you told me to do this. Now what we doing? Okay, I'm just sitting, you know, and then at the beginning of the year, this year, it's just been just a huge blessing. So I'm truly, truly grateful that God, one, told me, and then two, I obeyed and listened to him and did what he has to do. And now look.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's another hard answer to follow. I would say, I think during the pandemic, everyone was jumping on social media, and there was this consensus out there that all you had to do was just show up on social media, and then like success would follow. And then to a further extent, just producing good work, then like all the brand deals, the partnerships, or your photography clients will pour in. Whereas it takes a lot of work of putting your name out there, marketing, relationship building, and networking. Not as easy as like, hey, I showed up. You really have to do much more than that. It's the good work is so important, but it's just a piece of the overall puzzle. So I think we've all learned after the pandemic, like by now, that yeah, you have to do it all. But back then, it was it was definitely like a rude awakening when I was starting to take it more seriously.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because I think having worked in events now for a while, I think it sort of demystifies that sense that, oh, this person just has that special, like that fixed mindset, I think is what you were talking about earlier. You can kind of, when you get into that comparison game that you were referencing, which is rampant in social media, it's easy to just think like, oh, this person just magically got to X number of followers. This is how they got. And you start to see as you kind of are in these rooms, you get mentored by folks in your industry that it's a mindset. It's how you put these systems together. And I think it's a good litmus test too, if you're ever attending events and stuff like that, like listening to the people who frame it as though it's happening by magic and the people who will tell you like, no, I fought for my life to get here, and will like methodically take you through their journeys. Those are the people who are meaningful connections to make, because those are the people who are actually invested in your success and your growth, in lifting other people up, not the people who speak to you in bumper stickers and pretend like all this happened just by magic, which I think you guys have done a beautiful job kind of laying out the process, because that's what it is. It's a process. And I think the big lie, the big myth is when you look at the highlight reel and you're just seeing the wins and you're not seeing how people got there. And that's a big aspect, I think, about the creative profession, creative industries, is that it can look like magic. The outcome can look like magic, but it's actually a very methodical process, like what you're saying, like getting things down to a science so that you can lift it up to an art, so you can make it look like magic. But the people who I think are the most meaningful and have the greatest impact in these spaces are the ones who will take you through, kind of the magicians who will show you their tricks.
Oh, come on.
Tell you, podcast.
No, for real.
You can help me grow my following.
All right, so we'll go ahead and open it up to the audience if anyone has any questions.
My question for y'all is, how do you balance having, I guess, your own privacy, especially when you live or produce content that's so readily available to so many people? So how do you balance that duality?
There's just some content that I'm not willing to post or share. Like I think like I don't really post like content that's like in my home. You know, if I'm doing like a get ready with me, like, okay, I don't really just post every single thing. And I think Jerry was talking about that earlier. Yeah, I don't know if there is really like a balance for me. I just know what I want to post and what I don't want to create. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just your comfort level. People don't need to know what you're doing all the time. But yeah, some things we share with our friends in private. Being on social media can be exhausting. So just really figuring out what works for you, I would say would be, I guess it's ditto. It's really hard to define it. It really is. My fiance and I talk about this a lot because we met through Instagram years ago, and just what we put online is just like a fraction of who we are. And I think there is a tendency for some people maybe to kind of lose what that boundary, that line looks like. But at the end of the day, you just need to think about like, what would you just share with anybody? What would you share with a friend? What would you share with a stranger? Would you want this just to be out there on the internet? And I guess that's just, those questions are kind of the guide. I think for me, it's a little easier. I've leaned more into photography now, where I'm behind the lens. I don't have to share anything about me other than, hey, here's my latest shoot. But yeah, it's definitely something I think people should think about, so that they just don't get lost. Sometimes you can kind of maybe overshare and then regret some things.
Appreciate all the information tonight. It's been really, really insightful. So my question for the panel is, if you're looking towards the future, right, and you're thinking about either a personal growth or growing your business, what is one thing you need to keep in mind about best positioning yourself for the current changing times and what's happening in the future? Because if you don't position yourself right, you're going to miss the wave.
It's a great question. I think for me, holding on to authenticity is important. When there are changes, there are trends, there's movement, there may be new opportunities, maybe a new platform or new brand opportunity, but just thinking about like what speaks to me, what works for me, focusing on your why, and also, again, knowing yourself really well, I think is a good North Star to have when it can seem like you want to follow a trend or you want to do what other people around you are doing. I feel like AI can often be a crutch for people. They can lean into that, perhaps too headstrong. But again, if you're just solely relying on AI for content creation or ideas and really not being in touch with yourself and what really is driving you to continue in whatever business that you're in, yeah, you'll definitely get lost no matter what else gets thrown your way.
Yeah, I think it's like you were saying, decoupling your definitions from success with, or your cultural currency from being current. Because there, again, everybody's moving fast, breaking things, but we haven't quite, particularly when it comes to AI, nobody knows what they're doing yet. We're still figuring it out. So I think there's something to be said for healthy skepticism and not, being a complete Luddite about it, but just taking a step back to think about, things like the ecological impacts, things like the economic, social impacts of these technologies. And not only that, like in terms of what your values are and how you want to apply these tools to your workflows, to what extent you're willing to be part of the problem or how you want to minimize that, but also thinking about how this fits into your positioning, how this fits into the value that you bring to your industry, rather than, again, just trying to stay current. Like what is your innate currency? What is your taste maker value proposition? What is unique to you? And starting from that, exactly what you're saying, being true to yourself, staying authentic is how you avoid just chasing after the newest shiny thing and finding the thing that is actually going to help you scale and grow your business.
Okay. Great question, by the way. I would say, like, for me personally, I think photography and content creation is a need, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So, how I could position myself for my business and personal growth is kind of staying on top of trends, staying on top of things, reaching out to networking, building my community, because I do content for businesses, for people, and I show up online just to inspire others to do the same. So really just staying in the know, and then also just meeting and showing up at events so I can introduce myself to other people. That way, the future, like next year or wherever, I'll be somewhere.
I'll take one more question right there.
My question is also, thank you all for your answers. They're all very insightful. My question is, I think when growing something or scaling, there's always an emphasis on strong work ethic, but I think it's also important to have a strong rest ethic. So my question for you is, how do you all balance rest and work, and what do you do in those seasons where you need more rest to feed your creativity?
I was listening, I forget, I'll have to remember it later. But I was listening to this podcast where we were talking about we're the only animals that work that work more than we rest. I think it was, I remember, it was Vibe Check. Sam Sanders was saying, he was looking at this piece of research. I was like, yeah, that's true. Most animals, like, they rest more than they work because they're just working to get food so that they can rest more. And I think taking the shame out of it is a really big step, because we're all raised and within the context of this Protestant work ethic, this hustle culture, this idea that we have to stay on top, we have to stay current, we have to chase after the Joneses more and more and more. And that's why, again, I think, to everything everybody's been saying, being really in tune with yourself, what your needs are, and reconnecting with that. Because I think when you're chasing things, it's when you're really externally focused and you're looking for your value externally. And that's something I know I've struggled with. I've had to unlearn, because even though I'm not a content creator, I've fallen victim to the game of comparison. So I think coming back to yourself and really connecting with yourself and what you need is a really important first step to just saying it's okay. Telling yourself it's okay to take a break. It's okay if I don't post right now. It's okay if I'm just here and present with my family. It's okay if I'm not using XYZ tool or that expensive thing. Like, I'm enough. And it's okay for me to just be comfortable with that or uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, I think if anyone says they're not struggling with finding work-life balance or time for rest, I think that they're maybe stretching the truth a little bit, just because of that comparative nature. I think there's still a bit of a stigma where it's like people can see you as lazy if you're taking like a week off when you've had a really, really rough time at work for the past month. Like, people are only seeing that rest. And I also think we think people are looking at us more than we realize too. That if I go take a nap this afternoon, no one's going to know. So I think there is that element. We have to be kinder to ourselves and listen to ourselves more, even when we're focused on success so much here, especially this country out of all countries. Like, it's just the grind all the time. That sometimes it takes people around me to remind me, hey, you've been staring in front of that screen for 10 hours, editing the same photo. Maybe you should step away. So not just being kinder to yourself, but also allowing other people in your space so that they can give you a reality check and maybe tell you to take that break when you need to, because rest then gives you the clarity and the energy and sometimes the inspiration then to get back into it.
Oh, great. I give myself grace most of the time. This is my first time being, an entrepreneur. Even though it's been 2 years, I still haven't really found my structure of how I want my everyday to go. And so as I get up, I try to do my best of like getting the work done. But then in my busy seasons, I give myself grace. I rest in between, like a very busy weekend. Then I'm resting Monday, Tuesday. No calls, no working out. I'm really just showing up for myself and giving and taking that time off. It is different as an entrepreneur, I would say. But I found some help. I got someone that's going to help me kind of organize my schedule and get things, so that way it doesn't look like I'm just resting on the couch, or anything like that. Definitely just overall giving myself grace during that time.
And I'll add a little point and then we'll wrap this thing on up. I love that you mentioned like lessening shame, and you mentioned increasing grace. And then you also mentioned like observing the society that you're in, because this country was built off of having people work really, really hard and then still be like, and you're lazy. So just examining that that's the country we're in. I did live abroad at one point in the Dominican Republic, and I remember going to school there, and for 2 hours, they would have 2-hour siestas where the whole university would be shut down and all of us would go home from like noon to 2 and eat with our families. So I ate with my host family. I would take a nap. I will wake up, go back to class, take the rest of my school, take the rest of my classes in the evening. And it was normal. Like there was no one that was like, I can't believe she eating and sleeping for 2 hours. Like, That was the culture. But here, you ask for more than 30 minutes and you finna get written up. So you also have to examine the society that you're in when you're thinking about rest. Because there's some other countries that are like, rest, duh. But then here, they're like, rest, oh my God, you're fired. So just keep that in mind too, because that will also help in lessen the shame that you feel whenever you're like, I really do need to not do anything for a month. In Europe, they're like a month off, duh. Here, they're like a week off. So just examine that so you don't feel as bad. Thank y'all. You know what? Round of applause for our panelists. Round of applause. Thank you. Thank y'all so much for your time.